Samhita, protection for women, children. So that is what Srila Prabhupada is speaking about. And towards the end of the purport, he says, the demons therefore do not accept any instruction which is good for society, and because they do not follow the experience of great sages and the rules and regulations laid down by the sages, the social condition of the demoniac people is very miserable. So, if we don't follow, then that will be the result. The result will be one will be miserable because one will have to face the reactions. 8. Asatyam apratiஷ்ඨन्ते जगताहुरनीश्वरम् अपरस्परसम्भूतं किमन्यत् कामहेतुकम्. They say that this world is unreal, with no foundation, no God in control. They say it is produced of sex desire and has no cause other than lust. So this is the philosophy of the demoniac people. This verse is talking about the philosophy of the demoniac people. Please read the purport.
The demoniac people, the world is fantasmagorical. There is no cause and effect, no control, no purpose. Everything is unreal. They say that this cosmic manifestation arises due to chance, mental actions and reactions. They do not think that the world was created by God for a certain purpose. They have their own theory. So the world has come about in its own way, and then there is no reason to believe that there is a God behind it. For them, there is no difference between spirit and matter, and they do not accept the supreme spirit. Everything is matter only. The whole cosmos is supposed to be a mass of ignorance. According to them, everything is void, and whatever manifestation exists is due to our ignorance in perception. They take it for granted that all manifestation of diversity is a display of ignorance. Just as in a dream, we may create so many things which actually have no existence. So when we are awake, we shall see that everything is simply a dream. But actually, although the demons say that life is a dream, they are very expert in enjoying this dream. And so instead of acquiring knowledge, they become more and more implicated in their dreamland. They conclude that as a child is simply the result of sexual intercourse between man and woman. This world is born without any soul. For them, it is only a combination of matter that has produced the living entities, and there is no question of existence of the soul. As many living creatures come out from perspiration and from a dead body without any cause, the whole living world has come out of the material combinations of the cosmic manifestation. Therefore, material nature is the cause of this manifestation, and there is no other cause. They do not believe in the words of Krishna and Bhagavad Gita, under my direction, the whole material world is moving. In other words, among the demons, there is no perfect knowledge of the creation of the world. Every one of them has some particular theory of his own. According to them, one interpretation of the scriptures is as good as other, for they do not believe in a standard understanding of the scripture.
Okay, so here Prabhupada is speaking about various demoniac theories, philosophies. Okay, so let us see how we can refute them. So the first philosophy that Srila Prabhupada is talking about here is that the world is phantasmagoria. That means the theory of Brahma Satya, Jagan Mithya. Okay, so how will you refute that? Jagat is Mithya.
Well, this world has come from the truth. After what cannot become false. It is temporary but not.
Okay, fine. Yes. So that's the refutation because everything is coming from the absolute truth. It has to be truth. It cannot be false. So that is one. So in order to establish, the Mayavadis in order to establish their philosophy, then they give the example of the snake and the rope. So they say that just like one imagines this rope to be a snake, but snake does not exist. So similarly, one is imagining this material world to be real, but it is not real, it does not exist. How do you refute that?
Snake is real. The rope itself is real. The conception considering the snake to be a rope.
Rope to be a snake.
So rope to be a snake is
imaginary. Right. Okay. So then another theory is that this cosmic manifestation arises due to chance, material actions and reactions. They do not think that world was created by God for a certain purpose. Okay, the chance theory. Refute? Okay, Sushma.
I think in this world happens like everything has a purpose behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So how could like we see that anything created by humanity has a specific purpose. So how in this world
Okay, that is true, but at least I cannot understand the purpose. So why should I believe that there is a purpose?
so like for example, suppose this pen is created by like scientists.
Uh,
So one may say that I don't understand its name, but there is a specific meaning. So we may, with our little intelligence, we may not understand it, but it has an ability.
okay, fine. Okay. Okay, you talked about the purpose, but what about the cause? So they say that chance has arisen due to chance.
So we can say, Prabhuji, that you're you're you are telling that this is everything is coming by chance. So now your theory is also by chance. How there can be a reason behind it?
Acha, what you're saying the theory is also by chance?
Ah, because you say everything is chance, then how can say there is a reason behind it?
Uh-huh. Okay. Okay. But then how do I know that there is something better?
We will tell you.
Good. Okay. Then the next point Prabhupada is saying is no difference between spirit and matter, and they do not accept the supreme spirit. Everything is matter only, and the whole cosmos is supposed to be a mass of ignorance. Everything is void. Whatever manifestation exists is due to our ignorance in perception. Okay, so no difference between matter and spirit. Everything is only matter.
Everything, if everything is matter, then we are also matter only. Why a matter should believe in your words? Like, but difference between matter and spirit is consciousness. Spirit is always conscious.
No, okay, so consciousness is coming by matter. Everything is matter. Consciousness is also matter, coming due to matter. Okay.
Then we produce some light or matter or chemicals that we at least
Right. Okay, so Prabhupada spoke about this quite a few times. The theory of chemical evolution. Everything is coming from chemicals. And Prabhupada often quoted Swarup Damodar Maharaj at California. This person, Nobel laureate, he came to give a presentation, and then at the end of that, Swarup Damodar Maharaj asked, so if you say everything comes from matter, we'll give you all the materials, can you produce life? And his answer was, that we cannot say. Yes. So therefore, simply by matter, life cannot be created. So that means there has to be some difference. Okay. And okay, so they say everything is just like a dream. We create so many things and dream. This is a good statement, right? Although the demons say that life is a dream, they're very expert in enjoying this dream. So they're saying everything is a dream. And especially, it again refers to the Mayavadis who say that everything is false, but then they don't find any Brahmananda, then they come back to the material world. Right? So they say Jagat Mithya, they're saying that Jagat is Mithya, but then they come to enjoy the Mithya. That is what Prabhupada is referring to here. They're saying everything is like a dream, Mithya, but then they want to enjoy that. And so instead of acquiring knowledge, they become more and more implicated in their dreamlands. Okay, so that's. Okay, so in this way, and then finally the last one is saying that according to them, interpretation of the scriptures is as good as one interpretation of scriptures is as good as another, for they do not believe in standard understanding of the scriptural injunctions. So how do you refer that? Okay.
All paths.
Yes, all paths lead to the same goal. You can interpret whatever way.
You catch a train, Bombay.
Right. So yes, so one cannot just interpret any way one wants and think that one will achieve the same goal. Okay, so now the next verse, before that, let's read the lecture of Srila Prabhupada.
Lokesmin Daivam Asura Devasam. So they do not like people in divine nature. They will tolerate all kinds of noise, barking of dogs, the motor car passing, the aeroplane on overhead. But as soon as there is kirtan, they are disturbed. They will tolerate so many different types of noise, but they will not tolerate kirtan. In the morning at 7 o'clock, we used to hold our class, and there was little sound. Immediately the tenants from upwards, they will come down and complain. Sometimes they will call for police. And on the street, Second Avenue, there is always big trucks and motor cars going on, heavy sound. Then in your country, the garbage carrier sound, the digging sound, so many sounds they will tolerate. And as soon as Hare Krishna, oh, this is intolerable. This is healthy.
Right. So now what is the result of all these demonic philosophies? Next verse. Etam drishtem avashtabhya nashtatmanul prabuddhaya prabhavantyugra karmana kshayaya jagato hitaha. Following such conclusions, the demoniac who are lost to themselves and have no intelligence engage in unbeneficial, horrible works meant to destroy the world. So, following such conclusion, atheistic conclusions, as told in the previous verse, the result is what? The result is alpa buddhya, nashta atmana. So they have lost themselves, less intelligence, and the result is ugra karma. Ugra karma, horrible works meant for kshayaya jagata, meant for the destruction of the worlds. So, Prabhupada is talking about the nuclear weapons. So they have no idea how to behave towards one another. Animal killing is very prominent amongst demoniac people. Such people are considered the enemies of the world because ultimately they will invent or create something which will bring the destruction to all. Indirectly, this verse anticipates the invention of nuclear weapons, of which the whole world is today very proud. At any moment, war may take place, and these atomic weapons may create havoc. Such things are created solely for the destruction of the world, and this is indicated here. Due to godlessness, such weapons are invented in human society. They are not meant for the peace and prosperity of the world. Okay. So, Srila Prabhupada also in many lectures he speaks about this, that they are very proud of all these modern inventions, but what have they invented? Previously, Prabhupada says, previously with one knife or a dagger, one can kill one person at a time. And now, with one bomb, thousands of people. This is their progress. This is their advancement. Now, as Prabhupada says, anyways, people are going to die. What you have done? You have only accelerated their death. And you're so proud of that. Do something so that people will not die. Then that is something to your credit. But what is the use of just accelerating death? But that is the result of all these demoniac philosophies. 10. Kamamashritya dushpuram dambhamanadharvitaha moha grihitva sagraham pravartate shuchivrataha. Taking shelter of insatiable lusts and absorbed in the conceit of pride and false prestige, the demoniac, thus illusioned, are always sworn to unclean work attracted by the impermanent. So the result is kama ashritya. So they take shelter of kama, lust. They have no other goal. Their only goal is kama. And that kama is what? Dushpuram can never be satisfied. In third chapter also Krishna uses the same. Dushpuram, analena, burns like fire. And so that lust can never be satisfied, and the result of that is damba, mana, So there so much of pride and false prestige and moha. We discussed these things yesterday also. And asat grahats. They are attached to the impermanent things and ashuchi vrataha. So Prabhupada talks about this ashuchi vrata, unclean vows. So unclean vows means all the sinful activities. Wine, women, gambling, meat eating. These are unclean habits induced by pride and false prestige. And they create some principles of religion which are not approved by the Vedic injunctions. But although such demoniac people are most abominable in the world, by artificial means the world creates a false honor for them. Right? So all these demoniac people, then there's so much honor for them, they get some Nobel prizes, all that. So because everyone is simply in ignorance. Although they're gliding towards hell, they consider themselves very much advanced. 11, 12. Chintamaparimeyan cha pralayandam upashritah kamopabhoga parama etavadhyati nishchitah asha pasha shate bhakta kama krodha marayanah ihate kama bhogartham anyayena sanchayam. They believe that to gratify the senses is the prime necessity of human civilization. Thus, until the end of life, their anxiety is immeasurable, bound by a network of hundreds of thousands of desires and absorbed in lust and anger. They secured money by illegal means for sense gratification. So, chinta aparimeyam. So, the result of all these demonic activities is what? Chintam aparimeyam, immeasurable anxieties, fears. And that is the result. We can see everyone is very fearful, so much of anxiety because they know they're doing all horrible things. Then there's always fear. What will happen? What will be the reaction? So a thief can never be in peace, correct? If somebody is thief, he's always fearful. When he'll be caught, when he'll be punished. So similarly, materialistic people always fear. Till what time the fear exists? Pralayantam. Till the time of death, so much of fear, so much of anxiety. And the only business is kama bhoga. Their only business is the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is sense gratification. And Srila Prabhupada tells his own personal experience when he was in France. So he says that how there are these old people going to naked clubs and they can't enjoy. But still, the desire is there. The desire is there. You have to pay $50 to get in. But still, they're ready to pay and go. So this is so we all know that famous story of Akbar Bibil, right? How the calm remains till death. Even old person, the calm does not go. Right? So one has to transform it. One has to transform the karma to prema. That is the only way one can be free. Otherwise, there's no way. The tendency to enjoy always remains. And so therefore, asha, pasha, shati, bhatta is bound by so much of asha. Asha for what? Enjoyment. There's desire for enjoyment, but this very desire for enjoyment becomes pash.
Suffering.
So much of suffering and ultimately leading to deaths. So it becomes pash, entanglement. Those desires for enjoyment become cause of entanglement in this world. And in order to enjoy bhoga artham, for the purpose of bhoga, kama bhoga artham, for the sake of this, what they are ready to do? Anyayena artham sanchayam. They are ready to accumulate wealth by illegal means, beg, borrow, steal, but get the wealth. So that is, and then of course they have to get so many reactions for that. And I think so one of the classes we had discussed, I think so, the results of accumulating wealth. We discussed.
Not yet.
Okay, go. 7th canto, 13th chapter. Some good verses. And Srila Prabhupada's special instructions for devotees within these purports. Because even devotees have tendency to accumulate money.
So here, illegal means,
Huh?
illegal means, is it referring to occupations which are availing or how because nowadays modern occupations are many of them are like illegal. They fall in the category of illegal.
So basically, illegal means what is not due to one, what one is not destined to get. So one is destined to get something by one's occupation, right? Whatever it may be. So whatever one occupation one is doing, one is destined to get something.
If the occupation itself is something, because Prabhupada made a mention about this factories and industries that Guru. So,
Okay, that is true, but then what else will people do?
so, this,
So therefore, if that is the, therefore when Srila Prabhupada explains this verse, Sthani Sthita Shuddhigata, so there Srila Prabhupada explains, Sthani Sthita means what? Doesn't matter, if you're a doctor, do that job, if you're an engineer, do that job, whatever you're doing, you do. So as long as it is not directly sinful activity, but then okay, whatever occupation, no problem. But then be satisfied with whatever money one is getting by appropriate means and don't resort to cheating and so many other things. Yeah. Sure. Hmm.
External display disconnected.
ये कौन सा चैप्टर?
7:30.
हाँ,
9.
फिर थोड़ा नीचे जाए. So this is the Avadut Brahman speaking to Prahlad Maharaj. Of course, some say it is Dattatreya. These are all very wonderful verses explaining the truths of material life. Okay. This is what verse number 32. So he says, I'm actually seeing how a rich man who's a victim of his senses is very greedy to accumulate wealth and therefore suffers from insomnia due to fear from all sides despite his wealth and opulence. So this is the first effect of accumulating wealth. In this verse he is talking about 1, in the next verse he talks about 7. So the first effect is insomnia, no sleep. So he's accumulating so much of wealth thinking that peaceful life. For that only he's accumulating wealth. But what is the result of that? So therefore Prabhupada is writing, greedy capitalists accumulate wealth under so many miserable conditions, the result being that because they collect money by questionable means, same thing here, questionable means, their minds are always agitated. So when one does something illegal, that is the result. Mind is always agitated. One cannot be peaceful. And thus they are unable to sleep at night, take pills for mental tranquility to invite sleep. Quite a graphic word, invites. Sometimes even the pills are failure. And consequently, the result of having accumulated money by so much labor is certainly not happiness, but only distress. So Prabhupada is asking a rhetoric question. What is the value of acquiring a comfortable position if one's mind is always disturbed? So what has he acquired? So the result of the greedy capitalist unnecessary accumulation of wealth is that he must suffer from a blazing fire of anxiety. Blazing fire of anxiety. And so acharyas use nice examples to make the concept clear, the effects. Blazing fire of anxiety. Here also same thing, right? Chintam aparineya, immeasurable anxiety. So that is being portrayed in a graphic way. Blazing fire of anxiety. And always be concerned with how to save his money, invest it properly, to get more and more. So that's what most people are thinking about. Such a life is certainly not very happy, but because of the spell of the illusory energy, materialistic persons engage in such activities. Now, these are Prabhupada's instructions for Krishna consciousness movements. Okay, read.
As far as our Krishna consciousness movement is concerned, we are getting money naturally by the grace of God, by selling our literature. The literature is not solely for our sense gratification to spread the Krishna consciousness. We need so many things. And Krishna is therefore supplying us the requisite money to advance this mission. Mission of Krishna is to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. And for this purpose, we naturally must have sufficient money. Therefore, according to the advice of Srila Rupa Goswami, Prabhupada, we should not give up attachment to money that can spread the Krishna consciousness.
Okay, so then he is defining Falgu Vairagya. Okay, so now read further. Money that can help.
Money that can help in spreading the Krishna consciousness movement is not a part of this material world, and we should not give it up, thinking that it is material.
So that is spiritual, Lakshmi. It's not part of the material world. And then Anasaktasya Vishya. Okay, now reads. Money is
Undoubtedly great quantities, but we should not be attached to this money for sense gratification. Every cent should be spent for spreading the Krishna consciousness movement, not for sense gratification.
what? Every cent. Okay, we don't have cents. I don't know, we don't have paisas also now, I think. No, okay, we can say every rupee should be spent for spreading Krishna consciousness movement. No.
There is a danger for a preacher when he receives great quantities of money. But as soon as he spends even a single rupee for the collection, for
They
his
don't edit program.
collection for his personal sense gratification, he becomes a fallen victim. The preachers of Krishna consciousness movement should be extremely careful not to misuse the immense quantities of money needed to spread this movement. Let us not make this money the cause of our distress. It should be used for Krishna, and that will cause our eternal happiness. Money is Lakshmi, or the goddess of fortune, companion of Narayan. Lakshmi ji must always remain with Narayan, and then there need be no fear of degradation.
Okay. So preachers sadhana. There's danger for a preacher when he receives great quantities of money. But as soon as he spends even a single cent for his personal gratification, he becomes a fallen victim. So please note all the preachers. So again, Prabhupada is writing, the preachers of the Krishna consciousness movement should be extremely careful not to misuse the immense quantities of money needed to spread this movement. Let us not make this money the cause of our distress. And unfortunately, but it is a fact that within our own movement, money has become a cause of so much distress, so many cases, again and again and again. It's a fact. As we read in the first canto of the Bhagavatam, 4 places Kaliraj asked, and Maharaj Parishad, he said, oh, you stay. But what did Kali say? Oh, they're not available. So then Parishad Maharaj says, okay, one place you have. What is that? Wherever there's hoarding of gold. So wherever there is gold, money, there is Kali. And how many times relationships amongst devotees have broken because of money? Right here in Pune. So many times. And as Prabhupada is saying here, what happens when there's great quantities of money? Then there's a tendency to use it for sense gratification. So that's how when the money comes, even amongst brahmacharis, we have seen this. So when money comes, then automatically, then sense gratification, then the vairagya reduces. Because money is there. Then the vairagya goes. And then slowly then, when the vairagya goes, then you have to appropriately use the money. One must have somebody to share the money with. So then slowly the wife comes, the house comes, everything comes. So we have seen these things. So I've seen sometimes brahmacharis especially involved with a lot of construction work. They have to deal with a lot of money. And yesterday I was talking about brahmacharis doing fund collection. So wherever there's money involved, big risk, it's a fact. So unless one is, as Prabhupada is saying here, anasaktasya vishayam. First quality is what? When one is anasakta, then one becomes qualified for yukta vairagya. Otherwise, there's no yukta vairagya. It will become everything for oneself. There's no vairagya there. So first one has to be detached. Then one can use any amount of money in Krishna service, no problem. But if one does not have the detachment, then the money will become a cause of distress, become a cause for bondage. So one has to see, what is my adhikar? If one doesn't have the adhikar, then better keep safe distance. So, okay, so we saw one effect. What is that? Insomnia. Now we will see in this verse, this verse is talking about how, again, the same point of anxiety only. Those who are considered materially powerful and rich are always full of anxieties because of governmental laws, thieves, rogues, enemies, family members, animals, birds, persons seeking charity, the inevitable time factor, and even their own selves. That's the invariably afraid. They become afraid of themselves. Can you say how they become afraid of themselves? Huh?
They might miserly money. If I go somewhere, I spend more money, I lose my money.
Okay, that's one possibility. What is one more possibility? How they're afraid of themselves? So Prabhupada writes, the word swasmak means from oneself. Because of attachment for money, the richest person is even afraid of himself. How? He fears that he may have locked his money in an unsafe manner or might have committed some mistake. So he's always afraid. अरे वो ठीक से लॉक किया कि कबाड़ में रखा चाबी कहाँ? Always fear. So he's afraid of himself. Did I lock the money properly? Did I keep it safely? There's always fear. That's how he's even afraid of himself. And then of course so many other people, government, income tax, thieves, And then even the relatives, Swajanakadasyu, rogues and thieves in the guise of relatives. Therefore, Prabhupada is saying, therefore, there is no need to accumulate wealth or unnecessarily endeavor for more and more money. The real business of life is to ask, who am I? And to understand oneself. Okay, now next verse, he talks about 7 effects. Shoka, Moha, Bhaya, Krodha, Raga, Klebya, Shrama, Adaya. So you see 4 in the first line, 3 in the next line. Total 7. 7 effects of Yan Moolasyu Ninam Jayat Spriham Pranarthayor Buddha. So those in human society or intelligence should give up the original cause of lamentation, illusion, fear, anger, attachment, poverty, unnecessary. The original cause of all these is the desire for unnecessary prestige and money. It's quite interesting. Actually, the verse doesn't talk of prestige, but Prabhupada is adding that. The verse is only talk. No, of course, the word prana is there. Prana artha yoga. So Prabhupada is translating prana as for bodily strength or prestige. Because very often they go together. So one has a desire for prestige, then one has to accumulate wealth. So now this is again an important purport. Again, Prabhupada is giving some instructions for ISKCON devotees. So here Prabhupada talks about Brahmanas. Brahmanas in particular would have no material desires. Okay, read this according to Vedic civilization.
According to Vedic civilization, the ultimate perfection of life is to take sannyas. But at the present moment, people do not know why sannyas is accepted. Because of misunderstanding, they think that one accepts sannyas to escape social responsibilities. But one does not accept sannyas to escape from responsibility to society. Generally, one accepts sannyas at the 4th stage of spiritual life. One begins as a brahmachari, then becomes a grahastha, a vanaprastha, and finally a sannyasi who take advantage of the duration of one's life by engaging oneself fully in self-realization. Sannyas does not mean begging from door to door to accumulate money for sense gratification. However, because in Kali Yuga, people are more or less prone to sense gratification, immature sannyas is not recommended. Srila Rupa Goswami writes in his Nectar of Instruction.
Okay, Atyara Prayasasya Prajat Punyamanga. So he is giving the translation to the verse. Okay, now go ahead. A sannyasi.
A sannyasi should have an institution meant to preach Krishna consciousness. He need not accumulate money for himself. We recommend that as soon as money accumulates in our Krishna consciousness movement, 50% of it should be invested in printing books and 50% of expenditures, especially in establishing centers all over the world. The managers of the Krishna consciousness movement should be extremely cautious in regard to this point. Otherwise, money will be the cause of lamentation, illusion, fear, anger, material attachment, material poverty, and unnecessary hard work. When I was alone in Vrindavan, I never attempted to construct matas or temples. Rather, I was fully satisfied with the small amount of money I could gather by selling back to Godhead, and thus I would provide for myself and also print the literature. When I went to foreign countries, I lived according to the same principle. But when Europeans and Americans began to give money profusely, I started temples and deity worship. The same principle should still be followed. Whatever money is collected should be spent for Krishna and not a farthing for self gratification. This is the Bhagavad principle.
Okay. So here Prabhupada is giving an instruction for managers. In the previous purport, he gave instruction for preachers. So preachers and managers, all the money lies with them. Right? So therefore Prabhupada is giving warnings. The managers of the Krishna conscious movement should be extremely cautious in regard to this point. Otherwise, money will be the cause for lamentation, illusion, fear, anger, material attachment, material poverty. How money becomes cause of poverty? If somebody has money, How can he be poor?
There Prabhupada is referring that material happiness and all will be. So from money it will like kala will start like.
वो ठीक है, लेकिन पॉवर्टी मतलब धन चला जाता है, इसका मतलब वो वही मतलब पॉवर्टी मतलब
Spiritually, he will be poverty.
अरे ऐसे थोड़ी लिख रहे हैं, मटेरियल पॉवर्टी लिखा है, स्पिरिचुअल पॉवर्टी थोड़ी लिखा है.
Money is there, then people will come and they want to grab that money. Ultimately, that will not be used for his good, it will be used by others.
Correct. That's what we read in the previous verses, right? There are so many people
Splendor.
waiting to take. And then so many people will take, and the man will ultimately become poor. And of course, the only thing he's left with is the unnecessary hard work. That is what he's left with. So therefore, Prabhupada is specifically giving instruction. You see, this is not general instruction. He's specifically giving instruction for whom? Managers of the Krishna consciousness movement. That's specific instruction, you see. It's not vague, so specific. So, extremely cautious. See the words Prabhupada is using, extremely cautious. Prabhupada knew what's going to happen. So, therefore, he's giving all these instructions. Right at that time, he's giving all these instructions. Those who follow will be safe. Those who don't follow, there's a science. If one does not follow, one will have to face those consequences. Lamentation, illusion, all those will be bad. Huh?
Speak this instruction about this 50-50.
50-50, that we leave it to the managers.
There are generally this nowadays like this will be separate.
So in any case, so we are not debating that. That we leave it to the managers to decide. But this was Prabhupada's
Current
vision.
Current scenario, that time in temples also there used to be books. Like, so that's it. What was
Right. So, anyways. Okay, fine. So that's about illegally getting money. Anyayena artha sanchaya, accumulation, illegally accumulating money. And so the result of all this is what? Chinta aparimeya. Okay, 13-15. So now what is the mentality of these demoniac people? Idam madhya maya labdham imam prakshe manoratam idam astilam api me bhavishyati puradhanam aso maya hata shatru anishye cha paranapi ishvaroham aham bhogi siddhoham palavan sukhi adhyo vijanavanasmi govanyosti sadrisho maya yakshe dhasyami modishya nityajnana vimoditaha. The demoniac person thinks, so much wealth do I have today, and I will gain more according to my schemes. So much is mine now, and it will increase in the future more and more. He is my enemy, and I've killed him, and my other enemies will also be killed. I am the Lord of everything. I am the enjoyer. I am perfect, powerful, and happy. I am the richest man, surrounded by aristocratic relatives. There is none so powerful and happy as I am. I shall perform sacrifices. I shall give some charity, and thus I shall rejoice. In this way, such persons are deluded by ignorance. So this is all imagination. Daydreaming. You know that Prabhupada told the story of the man who had some pots and was going to sell the pots. And on the way he dozed off and he began to dream. I'll sell the pots, I'll get so much of wealth, and with the wealth I'll get married, I'll buy a big house, and then I'll have nice beautiful children. And if the wife and children don't obey, I'll beat them or kick them. And then he kicked his own pots. Oh, so kada. Hmm? Right. So in this way, they have all this daydreams of becoming happy, but nothing works out. Okay, 16. Aneka chitta vibhranta mohajala samavrita prasakta kama bhogeshu patanti narakeshu chau. Thus perplexed by various anxieties and bound by a network of illusions, they become too strongly attached to sense enjoyment and fall down into hell. Patanti narake. So yesterday, Sachin Bhagwan Prabhu also was talking about network. So many networks. What are the networks of? Illusion. Mohajala. Websites and networks. So both are entrapping. So here also, just like previous verse, it is said chintam aparimeyam. So here also it is said aneka chitta vibhranta. So here also so many anxieties. So here Prabhupada is explaining that such a person may sinful activity, deals in the black market, illegal sense gratification, and so therefore he has so much anxieties. Okay, so in devotional life, do we have anxieties or no?
Yes.
Really? Come on, what is the you? You came to devotional service for anxieties? Then
Guruji, anxieties will purify.
what?
They will purify. Abhishek here, Guruji.
Well,
The anxieties will be for the service of the Lord. So that anxiety will purify.
oh, really? Yeah. Anxiety is purifying. Okay, so
Yes.
what is the difference between material anxiety and spiritual anxiety? Bolo, kitchen, lot of anxiety you have. So much anxiety. That's what, so much of anxiety. So you're in ecstasy or you're crying? At least you look to be in ecstasy. Oh, spiritual crying.
The anxiety is always there. There are lots of planning is there, lot of inside. The notion is coming, so how to deal with this situations, how to.
So what is the difference between spiritual anxiety and material anxiety?
I will also say, which is, it will be purifying us ultimately because I know that it is about the Krishna, it will be satisfying. Otherwise, for my own satisfaction, anxiety will be complicating.
Okay, fine, thank you.
It will increase the remembrance of Krishna.
Acha, how?
We are more dependent on Krishna.
Really? Wow, you're speaking like a Paramahamsa. बात सच है, बात तो सच है. Your point is correct.
In anxiety, Krishna is remembered both.
That's why I'm saying he's speaking like Paramahamsa. Because Paramahamsa always remembers Krishna.
In extreme anxiety, nothing can be done. You have to remember.
Oh, that is forced remembrance. Okay, but your point is correct. Okay, fine. In spiritual anxiety, one remembers Krishna. Hey, he's sitting like a sadhu today. Give him the mic.
Spiritual anxiety will take us back to body.
Wow. Acha.
And spiritual anxiety will take us down to. Will just time us like the material world.
So what do you think in spiritual world there is anxiety or no anxiety? Huh? So much anxiety. You think Mother Yashoda is ever peaceful? So if you think you go back to spiritual world and there'll be no anxiety, you're mistaken.
We have the very wrong idea of anxiety.
So what is the right idea?
The right idea is to take there.
Here also you should know what is the right idea of anxiety.
Anxiety to serve Krishna also.
Anxiety to serve Krishna.
Because Krishna is always full of ananda. Anything of Krishna is bliss.
Acha. So in all your services you find only bliss?
Because we see the material, that's why.
So how do you distinguish? That is our question. So even while practicing devotional services, theoretically we can speak so many things. But even while practicing devotional service, we are not always in ecstasy, right? When we go through anxiety, sometimes we also become frustrated, depressed, right? So how can, while practicing devotional service, how can we distinguish whether the anxiety I'm going through is material or spiritual?
If it is your consciousness, if it's of pleasure of Krishna and being,
Hmm.
we can think, we can check at that time that or what and
Hmm.
please Krishna.
Hmm.
So then anxiety is probably there.
Hmm.
If it is for our sake, if it is not for our some,
Puja la pratishtha.
then it is material.
Ah.
There is no spiritual advantage.
Ah. Okay, good. Okay, online some answers. Difference between material and spiritual anxiety.
Hare Krishna, Guruji.
Ah.
Guruji, Dhanvid. Guruji, in spiritual life, whatever anxiety, that is result is for Krishna. In real life, we are actually in anxiety. That result is misery and there is lamentation also.
ठीक है.
Oh, Prabhuji, anxiety represents absorption.
What
So,
anxiety?
anxiety represents or indicates absorption, abhinivesh. So
Battery.
if we are spiritually absorbed, anxiety, then our attitude will be, outlook will be spiritual. It will not be material, and spiritual outlook will lead to more and more happiness and joy.
Okay, okay, spiritual outlook, more happiness, okay, fine. Okay, so the main difference is what? The main difference is motive. The main difference is the motive while performing the activity. So if the cause of anxiety is material, some personal gain, material motivations, puja la pratishtha, then so much of cheating as we were discussing yesterday. When there's pratishtha asha, what is the result? Yes, kapatti. When there's pratishtha asha, there'll be kapatya, there'll be cheating, and then to hide the cheating, then do something else, then the whole life becomes filled with so much of material anxiety, frustration, miserable life. But if it is solely for Krishna's pleasure, then even though one is taking on anxiety, one depends on Krishna, and so therefore one is still peaceful. One is still peaceful because one depends on Krishna. Right. Okay. Hey, where's the PPT? Okay, so Prabhupada's lecture, please do. Yo,
So Chintan of remain such
Parimeyam.
demons they are easily. Everyone has anxiety, but their anxiety of remain just like ordinary man has, he has got some anxiety, how to maintain my family, how to get some money to maintain family. Like that, but the demons they are unmiserable, unlimited. You will find big businessmen. They have got very long project. How to do this? How to do this? How to increase this factory? How to make it worthy, renowned, and so on, so on, so on.
Right. Kya hai?
Even if we have spiritual anxiety, like if Krishna or something, many times that promising is more of less or anxieties are spiritual anxiety. Somebody is a preacher that teaching it like this, Krishna like this. So how we can say that? Yeah, it's because remembrance of Krishna is we remember Krishna with the chanting time. Chanting time is another anxiety.
So that means what?
Our anxiety is not material.
Correct. So if that anxiety is disturbing our chanting, that means there is a mix of material motivations. So if it is totally on the spiritual platform, then why should my chanting be disturbed? I leave it to Krishna. I do my best and leave the results to Krishna. Then there is no anxiety. Correct. But why our chanting is disturbed? Because we are attached to the results. Because we're attached to the results, everything. So then plan making goes on. Are ye karunga, wo karunga. So all the plan making goes on because we're very much attached to the results. But if we're not attached to the results, then the chanting is the best time to actually depend on Krishna. And let Krishna give the results, whatever he wants. So by that we can analyze how much we are dependent on Krishna and how much we are dependent on our own efforts. So when we are totally dependent on Krishna, then there is no anxiety. So we do our best, and while doing our best, of course, there can be so much of anxiety and all that. But then ultimately one depends on Krishna. So then one is peaceful. That is the difference between material and spiritual anxiety. So if we are constantly meditating on the results and especially during the chanting time, that means we are materially attached to the results. So, of course, these things cannot happen overnight. But at least we should know what's the goal. So definitely it takes time. Definitely it's gradually, because since time immemorial we have been doing these things. Okay, fine. 17. So this section is still where? 18. 17. Atma sambhavita stabdha dhanamana madanvitaha yajante nama yajneste dambena viti purvakam. Self-complacent, always impudent, deluded by wealth and false prestige, they sometimes proudly perform sacrifices in name only without following any rules or regulations. Yajanti Nama Yajna. Here Nama Yajna is not Harinam Yajna. Here it means Yajna in name only. Yes, for namesake or for getting name for oneself. And so they make a big show. So we find sometimes influential people, politicians, they also do yajna, they do some religious activities, make sure that the photos are all over the newspapers. So that's yajna in name only. And impudent, deluded by wealth, prestige. So we discussed these points of it. Towards the end of the purport, Prabhupada says they take the dress of the renounced order of life and engage in all nonsense in that dress. Actually, there's so many restrictions for one who has renounced this world. There are some politicians also in saffron dress. So the word avidi purvakam, meaning a disregard for the rules and regulations, is especially stressed here. These things are. Okay, 18. Ahankaram balam darpam kamam krodham cha samshritaha mamatma paradeheshu pradvishanto suyakam. Bewildered by false ego, strength, pride, lust and anger, the demons become envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is situated in their own bodies and in the bodies of others, and blaspheme against the real religion. So how they become envious of the super soul? Ma atma paradeheshu pradvishantaha abhyasuyaka. So Krishna is saying they become envious of me, Mam, present in their own bodies and in others' bodies.
He basically started the body.
Correct. So because of violence, as Prabhupada is writing in the purport, this is called by so-called prestige and his accumulation of wealth and strength. He does not know that the present life is a preparation for the next life. Not knowing this, he is actually envious of his own self as well as of others. He commits violence on other bodies and on his own. He does not care for the supreme control of the personality of God because there is no knowledge. So ultimately, if one does not practice devotional service, it is envy towards oneself. Nate vidu swartha gatimi Vishnu. If one is really swarthi, if one is selfish for oneself, then one practices devotional service, because devotional service is for whose benefit? Our own. It's for my benefit. If I practice, it's for my benefit only. So if I don't practice, it is actually envying myself. And then I cannot do benefit to others also. So that's how one envies oneself and envies others also. And so in that way, he's envious of the super soul within oneself and then in others. Being envious of the scriptures and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he puts forward false arguments against the existence of God, denies scriptural authority. He thinks himself independent and powerful in every action. Okay, so all this is the result of this.
Which kills the body, because body is meant to be used in service of the body.
Right, that's true. So basically, that's what Prabhupada has written, violence. So violence to oneself, violence on other bodies. So all that is being envious of oneself. Now he commits violence on other bodies and on his own. Right, so all this is violence only, no? Intoxication and all illicit activities, everything is ultimately harm to oneself. Okay, and the last section of the chapter, 19 to 24, the results of demoniac activities. So what are the results? 19. Tanaham dvishata kruram samsareshu naradhamam Shipam yajastamam asurisheva yonishu. Those who are envious and mischievous, who are the lowest among men, are perpetually cast into the ocean of material existence, into various demoniac species of life. The Prophet is quoting from third canto, Karmana Deva Netrena Chantu Dehu Papatyati. So they're put into all these lower species of life. All are arranged by superior power. They are not accidental. Not accidental. As for the demoniac, it's clearly said that they are perpetually put into the wombs of demons and thus they continue to be envious, the lowest of mankind. Okay. 20. Asurenyo nimapanna mura janmani janmani mama prapyeva kaunteya tato yantyadhamavlake. Attaining repeated birth amongst the species of demoniac life, O son of Kunti, such persons can never approach me. Gradually they sink down to the most abominable type of existence. So, in one sense, of course, you cannot say that eternally they can never approach. Otherwise, there is no meaning to getting a human birth and apportionate practice devotional service. But the mode is that unlimited births they'll have to spend in the lower species. So therefore, then achieving the Supreme Lord practically becomes impossible. So many species, so many forms. But of course, after all that, finally one can get human form of life. So important point to note is how valuable is the human form of life. And therefore, there is so much importance given to the human form of life, because only the human form of life one can understand all this. So after coming to human form, if we don't understand, very unfortunate. Okay. So now Arjuna, after hearing of all this list of demoniac qualities, Arjuna may say, oh, so many demoniac qualities, how can I control all of them? How can I vanquish all of them? So Krishna says, okay, don't worry, don't worry. Even if you cannot finish all of them, finish off at least three. Trividam narakasyedam dvaram nashanam atmanaha kama krodhastada lobhas tasmadetattrayam tyaje. Of course, these three are the root cause of? Yes, all of this. There are three gates leading to this hell: lust, anger, and greed. Every sane man should give these up, for they lead to the degradation of the soul. So, see, give up these three. Kama, Krodha, Lobha. 22. Ete vimukta kaunteya tamodvare strivi naraha acharatyatmana shreyas tato yati param gatim. The man who has escaped these three gates of hell, O son of Kunti, performs acts conducive to self-realization and thus gradually attains the supreme destination. So Prabhupada begins his purport by saying one should be very careful of these three enemies to human life: lust, anger, and greed. The more a person is freed from lust, anger, and greed, the more his existence becomes pure. Then he can follow the rules and regulations enjoined in the Vedic literature. Then, by following the regulated principles of human life, one gradually raises himself to the platform of spiritual realization. Okay, so then the next question is how to eradicate lust, anger, and greed. So what do we do with lust? Yes, so that's what Narottam Das Thakur says. Kama Krishna Karma Arpane. So by engaging in Krishna Karma, one eradicates the lust. So when one does all activities for the satisfaction of Krishna, right? That's the important point. So that's devotional service. Devotional service means acting for satisfaction of Krishna. So the more we act on that platform, the more the Rajagun, the enjoying mentality reduces. So therefore, we'll see in the further verses, Krishna says, at least come to goodness. So on the platform of goodness, one performs all activities as a matter of duty, without being attached to fruits. So one does it as matter of duty and not attached to the fruits. Or even if there are fruits, fruits are meant for Krishna's pleasure, not for my own pleasure. So the more one acts on that platform, the more one acts in sattva, sattva will increase. More one acts in rajas, rajas will increase. More one acts in tamas, tamas will increase. That's how it works. Right? So therefore, one should always attempt to work in sattva. And that's why in the 17th and 18th chapters, Krishna speaks so many things about the three modes, so that we can attempt to at least come on sattva platform. And then sattvat sanjayate jnanam. Arey, ulta bol. So then one can have the proper knowledge, discrimination, what is right, what is wrong. So this is important. Okay, so now how to control anger? Krodha bhakta dveshi jane. So by using it against those who are envious of the Lord and his devotees. So what do we do? Go and kill them? So what to do?
Arguments we can just make them. If we have that.
Hare Krishna. Guruji.
Okay, by preaching, okay, so therefore we find Prabhupada showing all his anger in preaching against the scientists and Mayavadis. So Prabhupada is so much anger. Of course, we can't repeat as Prabhupada did. So if we try to imitate Prabhupada, people will say, "Bahut kathor hai ye." So people will not appreciate. We can't imitate Prabhupada. So then what to do? How to use anger in Krishna service? Hanuman's example is given. Which other example is given? Arjuna's example is given. So what are we supposed to do?
Firstly, I have heard that we should not utilize our anger because our anger is not controlled. We should not use because we use it wrong.
Okay, good point. Good point. What else?
We only see the anger as a tool. But it is like they are always situated in such that they have to use the anger. They use gratitude and also compare against the punish for very well angry. And after that, disciples were seen that is
Amsterdam developed. But that was Prabhupada. So we have example of Dhruva Maharaj. Dhruva Maharaj, so even though on such an elevated platform at darshan of the Supreme Lord, but still when he went to kill the Yakshas, then what happened? Atiroshena. He became excessively angry. He got carried away by the anger. Rajogun, Tamogun, he got carried away and he began to slaughter all the Yakshas. And then who came? Who came? Swayambhuman. Swayambhuman had to come and chant the holy names and be peaceful. So that danger is there. So if we think we'll use anger in Krishna service like Hanuman and Arjuna, we'll go somewhere else only with the anger. So what to do? What to do?
One place, and the hotel is bringing their capital to argument or people. So we can do, otherwise we can be.
Now, okay, preaching. But again, in preaching, that's what we were saying. If in preaching we show too much anger and argue and fight, one thing is our own mind will be contaminated. If you see Bhaktivinoda Thakur, when he speaks about Prajalpa, he says one of the aspects of Prajalpa is arguments. Because by arguments, the mind becomes polluted. So we can't imitate some great personalities. Okay, so let's go to what Bhishma Dev says. Okay, go. First canto, 9th chapter. वो बीच में आता है. First canto, 9th. Teachings of Bhishma Dev. First canto. Sentence में. First canto, chapter 9. कुछ तो 30 ऐसा कुछ था. ठीक है. Like, no. Correct. एक मिनट. ज्यादा नहीं है, 2-3 सेंटेंस ही पढ़ना है. So yes, so Bhishma Dev is speaking on so many different subject matters. Okay. As far as salvation is concerned, one has to conquer the principles of lust, anger, unlawful desires, avarice, and bewilderment. Avarice is greed. So here is the answer. To get freedom from anger, one should learn how to forgive. Because usually one gets angry because of what? दूसरा व्यक्ति ने कुछ गलत किया है. So therefore I am angry. Usually that is the cause of anger, correct? But if you forgive the person, the anger goes away. Easy to say, of course. But that's what we need to practice. We need to practice. नहीं तो बोलेंगे अरे संभव ही नहीं छोड़ दो. No, one has to practice. So therefore, one has to at least philosophize. ठीक है, okay. Once he committed mistake, okay. So in any case, if we forgive, when we do the needful, whatever is required, but then one can become free from anger. So as just like Prabhupada's example, you mistake, but then Prabhupada got angry for what? For yes, a service to instruct the disciples. That's all. It was not based on some personal agendas. So that means, in one sense, that's also forgiveness because he's not doing it out of some vengeance. So therefore, the anger does not sustain. To be free from unlawful desires, one should not make plans. So if one has plans for achieving this, achieving that, so many desires, and the more one desires, what happens? The more one plans to fulfill desires, what happens? Huh? Desires increase. The more one plans to satisfy desires, desires increase. Therefore, he says to be free from unlawful desires, one should not make plans or unnecessary plans. By spiritual culture, one is able to conquer sleep. So if one is busy in Krishna service, then less time for sleep. It's a whole spiritual culture. Yukta, ahar, vihar, that's all spiritual culture. By tolerance only can one conquer desires and avarice. Okay, so greed can be conquered by tolerance. So tolerating the desires. Ye chahiye, wo chahiye, ye chahiye, wo chahiye. So tolerate these desires, tolerate the greed, and be satisfied. Be satisfied. Very important instruction, especially for Brahmanas. So we find both in Krishna speaking to Sudama and also in Lord Vamandev speaking to Bali Maharaj. Both places you can find. So if a Brahmana is not satisfied, then what happens? All his spiritual knowledge leaks out or is lost, just like putting water on fire. So spiritual knowledge diminishes when there is greed, because then the mind is focused on that only. If there's greed, I want this, I want that, I want this, I want that. So what meditation goes on getting those material things. Then one can't meditate on Krishna. So therefore, if one wants to conquer desires, greed, then tolerate those desires. Disturbance from various diseases can be avoided by regulated diets. By self-control, one can be free from false hopes, and money can be saved by avoiding undesirable association. By practice of yoga, one can control hunger, and worldliness can be avoided by cultivating the knowledge of impermanence. Dizziness can be conquered by rising up. False arguments can be conquered by factual ascertainment. Talkativeness can be avoided by gravity and silence, and by prowess one can avoid fearfulness. Perfect knowledge can be obtained by self-cultivation. One must be free from lust, avarice, anger, and greed to actually attain the path of salvation. As far as women are concerned, they are accepted as the power of inspiration for men. As such, women are more powerful than men. Mighty Julius Caesar was controlled by Cleopatra. Such powerful women are controlled by shyness. Therefore, shyness is important for women. Once this control valve is loosened, women can create havoc in society by adultery. Varnasankar. Okay, fine. See. 23. Shastra vidin mutsrijya vartate kamakarata nasa siddhim avapnoti na sukham na paramgatim. He who discards scriptural injunctions and acts according to his own whims attains neither perfection nor happiness nor the supreme destination. So as right in the beginning we discussed that the main symptom of the demoniac people is they don't follow Shastra. And this is the result of not following Shastra. Please read the purport.
As described before, the software theory or the direction of the software within the different castes and orders within society, everyone is expected to follow these rules and regulations. One does not follow them, acts whimsically according to his lust, greed, and desire, then he never will be perfect in his life. In other words, a man may theoretically know all these things, but if he does not apply them in his own life, then he is to be known as the lowest of mankind. In the human form of life, living entity is expected to be same, to follow the regulations given for living his life in the best platform. But if he does not follow them, then he degrades himself. But even if he follows the rules and regulations and moral principles and ultimately does not come to the state of understanding the Supreme Lord, all his knowledge becomes. And even if he accepts the existence of God, if he does not engage himself in the service of the Lord, he is again satisfied. Therefore, one should gradually raise himself to the platform of Krishna consciousness and universal. It is then and there that he can attain the highest that perfection state is not. The word
Karata.
is very significant. A person who knowingly violates the rules acts in lust. He knows that this is forbidden, but still he acts. This is called acting whimsically. He knows that this should be done, not, but still he does not do it. Therefore, he is called whimsical. Such persons are destined to be condemned by the Supreme Lord. Such persons cannot have the perfection which is meant for the human life. The human life is specially meant for purifying one's existence. And one who does not follow the rules and regulations cannot purify himself, nor can he attain the real state of happiness.
Kama karata means acting whimsically. So, because of karma, because of the tendency to enjoy, even though one knows one does not, one knows something should be done, but still one does not do it. One knows something should not be done, but still one does it. So, this is due to karma, the enjoying mentality. So, because of the enjoying mentality, then one does not follow the rules and regulations. The karma pushes the person, in spite of having the knowledge. So, in spite of having the theoretical knowledge, the enjoying mentality pushes him. So, many times people know this is right, this is wrong, people know, but still they do the wrong. Why? Karma pushes them. So that is why, because of karma karata, then one does not follow the injunctions of the scriptures. And when one does not follow the injunction, the result is nasa siddhim. He does not attain any perfection, no sukham, no paramgatim. Nothing is achieved by not following the scriptures. So therefore, first of all, one has to know what are the rules and regulations, what needs to be done, what does not, what should not be done, and then one should follow. And so like in the first paragraph, Prabhupada is describing various stages actually Prabhupada is describing. A man may theoretically know all these things. But if he does not apply them in his own life, then he is known as the lowest of mankind. So somebody knows theoretically, but he does not apply, what is the use? So same thing for us also. So we know so many things, we read so many things, we hear so many things, what to do, what not to do, rise early in the morning, come for Mangalarati, chant rounds attentively. So do services for the pleasure of Krishna. Practically every day we hear these things, correct? Every day we hear. So definitely one must try to apply these things. Otherwise, what is the use of simply hearing? Simply hearing. So one should definitely try to apply. Otherwise, Prabhupada says lowest of mankind. In the human form of life, living entity is expected to be sane and to follow the regulations given for elevating his life to the highest platform. But if he does not follow them, then he degrades himself. But even if he follows the rules and regulations and moral principles and ultimately does not come to the state of understanding the Supreme Law, then all his knowledge becomes spoiled. So somebody follows all the rules and regulations like the Jnanis and Yogis. Right? The Jnanis, Yogis, they also follow rules and regulations. Yam, Niyam, they follow. They follow all the rules and regulations, but if they do not ultimately come to Bhagwan realization, what is the use? That also is a waste of time. So one must follow the rules and regulations with the proper understanding, with the proper goal in mind. One needs to follow rules and regulations, right? So that is how one, otherwise, niyam agraha and niyam agraha. So niyam agraha is not following, niyam agraha is following without knowing the purpose, without knowing the purpose. So both are not right. And even if he accepts the existence of God, if he does not engage himself in the service of the Lord, then his attempts are spoiled. Therefore, one should gradually raise himself to the platform of Krishna consciousness and devotion service. So ultimately, what is the purpose of all rules and regulations? Smartavya Satadam Vishnu, Vismartavya Najatuchit, Sarve Vidhi Nishedasyo, Etayo Reva Kinkaraha. All rules and regulations are subservient to this one rule and regulation, that is, always remember Krishna, never forget him. That is the ultimate purpose. And the last verse. Tasma Shastram Pramanam Te Karya Karya Vyavasthito Yatva Shastra Vidhanoktam Karma Kartum Miharasi. One should therefore understand what is duty, what is not duty by the regulations of the scriptures. Knowing such rules and regulations, one should act so that he may gradually be elevated. Okay, so one should know what is karya and what is akarya. What is duty, what is forbidden activities, one should know and act according to the scriptures. Then Yatva Shastra Vidhanoktam Karma Kartum Iharasi. So one should know the injunctions of the Shastras. Then one can be elevated. Okay, read this book.
As stated in the 15th chapter, all the rules and regulations of the Vedas are meant for knowing Krishna. If one understands Krishna from the Bhagavad Gita and becomes situated in Krishna consciousness, engaging himself in devotional service, he has reached the highest perfection of knowledge offered by the Vedic literature. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made this process very easy. He asked people simply to chant Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
and to engage in the devotional service of the Lord and leave the remnants of foodstuffs offered to the needy. One who is directly engaged in all these devotional activities is to be understood as having studied all Vedic literature. He has come to the conclusion perfectly. Of course, for the ordinary persons who are not in Krishna consciousness or who are not engaged in devotional service, what is to be done or what is not to be done must be decided by the injunctions of the Vedas. One should act accordingly without argument. That is called following the principles of Shastra or Scripture. But the Astra is without the four principles that are visible in the conditioned soul. In perfect senses, the propensity for cheating, certainty of committing mistakes, and certainty of being illusioned. These four principal defects in conditioned life disqualify one from putting forth rules and regulations. Therefore, the rules and regulations, as described in the Shastra, being above these defects, are accepted without alteration by all great saints, acharyas, and great souls. In India, there are many parties of spiritual understanding, generally classified as two, the impersonalist and the personalist. Both of them, however, lead their lives according to the principles of the Vedas. Without following the principles of the scriptures, one cannot elevate himself to the perfectional stage. One who actually therefore understands the purport of the Shastras is considered fortunate. In human society, aversion to the principles of understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the cause of all faults. That is the greatest offense of human life. Therefore, Maya, the material energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is always giving us trouble in the shape of the threefold miseries. This material energy is constituted of the three modes of material nature. One has to raise himself at least to the mode of goodness before the path to understanding the Supreme Lord can be opened. Without raising oneself to the standard of the mode of goodness, one remains in ignorance and passion, which are the cause of demoniac life. Those in the modes of passion and ignorance derive the scriptures, derive the holy man, and derive the proper understanding of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They disobey the instructions of the spiritual master, and they do not care for the regulations of the scriptures. In spite of hearing the glories of devotional service, they are not attracted. Thus, they manufacture their own way of elevation. These are some of the defects of human society which lead to the demoniac status of life. If, however, one is able to be guided by a proper and bona fide spiritual master who can lead one to the path of elevation to the higher stage, then one's life becomes successful.
Thus, when the Bhagavan purports to the 16th chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of divine and demoniac actions. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Samved Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. So during that time, are there any festivals that September 23rd to 28th?